Hey, Virgo. So, it's also your birthday, so happy birthday. Your extended reading is also free. Yay. And I've been thinking about it. It's so funny. Like, I'm really good at admitting when I'm wrong, but not when it comes to Virgos. And I still don't feel like I'm wrong. I just feel like maybe I should also admit to my Virgo qualities. Then it won't seem like I'm being so judgmental. So I've been thinking a lot, right? About like how my Virgo moon plays on me, and I do so many of the things that I tell you that you guys do, but perhaps I should be admitting to those things more as well. So it doesn't seem so critical and seems more like same side. But we'll see. Let's see how it goes. We're going to do the intuitive part first, and then we'll go into your eclipses. The lunar, the solar, Mercury retrograde is in your sign, and the sun moves into your sign later in the month. So just a lot going on. A lot going on, and a lot of internal stuff. You have a lot of activity in the houses that have to do with your subconscious, and it's just a really cool thing to look at right now because when you think about the Virgo, you're talking about somebody whose subconscious is in the house of Leo. So the internal self is huge. Huge. Like the way Leos are. Just, expansive and warm and nurturing and open and risky, courageous and almost reckless. And so, of course, Virgo is a reaction to that. But what you're a reaction to, look how perfectly the system is set up. Whatever you're a reaction to is in your 12th house, and therefore it is your subconscious. It is what characterizes your shadow side. The Jungian word for it would be the shadow self, the term for it. So, what does it mean to have a Leo shadow side? Well, it's fun for one thing. I think this is why most people are surprised by how different you are in the bedroom than you are in just, walking around real life. Like, whenever someone characterizes a Virgo as cold, I'm like, yeah, but, again, Leo in the 12th house, no, they're not really cold. They're just, it's hidden. 12th house is the hidden self, right? So you have a lot of activity in that house. You have a solar eclipse in that house. A lot of energy. So needing to be really, really, rigorously honest with the self to get at those beliefs you're very loyal to. You know how you can just choose to believe something? Like, I know you have to have it backed up with fact, and, I get it. But you know how sometimes you'll just believe something? You'll be like, that's the right person. Or, I think that's the way to do it. And you're just going off of that, instinct. That vetting process that you kind of instantly go through in your head to come to those kind of conclusions, that's another aspect of your personality. You're not always the one who's very discerning and takes a really slow time. Yes, that is you. Of course, that's you. You have to make sure that, the people who will be consuming the harvest that you are checking through aren't all going to die. You have to be the one who will ration enough ahead so everyone doesn't die in the middle of winter. If you left that job to a Leo, they'd probably give all the rations away on the first day and not check through half the crop because it looks pretty good. And then, like, everyone's dead. Virgo's like, no, I have a major responsibility here. Like, excuse me. But then, so you have that discerning, very, like, I have to make sure I have to be responsible. But then you have this other side, which is the hermit, the intuition. And that's, but that snap moment. Okay, so first two cards are Justice, so Libra, and then the Tower. But that, snap judgment that you make sometimes, and you decide, like, okay, I love this person, or okay, I'm going to trust this person, or okay, I'm going to invest my money here, or okay, I'm going to work for this person, whatever it is, I'm going to start this company. That, what seems like instant decision is not instant at all. It's based on a highly refined, data processing kind of algorithm you've got going on, and then that's become so second nature to you, the ones of you who really trust themselves, that sometimes just that process happens really quickly, and you're like, yes, so this, why do I say all that? I say that because this ability that you have, it's dependent on the structure, the emotional scaffolding that you've created, which gives you this intuition or this ability, right? That's what's going to be questioned. It's your subconscious that's getting light, on it. It's your subconscious that's getting all this fuel. And I mean, I feel uncomfortable, and I'm just a Virgo moon. I'm like feeling really uncomfortable about it. And I think it's like in sympathy for you guys. Like, it's one thing to get at you guys and, like be hard on you, and I am. But it's another thing to watch you guys suffer. Like, nobody wants to see you suffer, and internal work is very different from analyzing something. You are very good at analyzing, but when that gets turned on you, you have these sort of what I like to call Dorian Gray moments. So, as I've stated before, most of my long-term clients are Virgo men. And they all have this kind of yearly moment where they don't ever see it coming, but they have this yearly moment, this Dorian Gray moment, where, if you don't know the story, just very, very quickly, it's this guy, he's, super hot or whatever, he's super good looking, let's put it that way. And like everybody's crazy about him. He's not, the nicest person. I probably made this comparison before, don't be irritated, it's going in a good direction. So, by a turn of events, magical things happen, and Dorian is granted the ability to remain ever youthful. However, there is a caveat. There is a price he has to pay, and the price is that there is this portrait of him in his attic, and the novel really goes off the belief that your face is a representation of your character. So, there's a saying that the face you have at 20 is the face that, God gave you, or that your genetics gave you, whatever, however you turn, look at that. I only roll my eyes because it's just a matter of like whatever, however you label it, okay? And the face you have at 50 is the one you've given yourself. So this ties into the greater, there's a reading in the Libra readings have one where we go into Chaucer and the ideas of physiognomy. I won't do that here, but the gist of it being that what you are like ends up showing up in your face and kind of will mold your face to your character. Another place you see this, if you are a Twilight Zone fan, Virgos are weirdos. We're weird. We are weird. If you watch the old Twilight Zones, there's this one episode that really, really messed with me when I was a kid, where there's this family and they're horrible and they just want this old guy's money. It's like this woman, her father in Louisiana, and he's like dying or whatever. And she's raised these horrible children, and she's quite horrible herself, and they go, and she's got some kind of like sniveling husband or whatever, and they go and they're just literally sitting there waiting for him to die. That's all they want, is for him to die. And they have all these, like, they're trying to placate him and, kind of mollify him in these really weak, gratuitous ways that are very, like, ingratiating and just, ugh. And he's like, okay, listen, like, let's cut the bullshit. Like, I know what, you know, you're really after. I know what you're like. You don't really care about me. Like, cut it out. All I want you to do is, you know, for the next however many hours until midnight, I want you to just wear these masks. And, you know, they're super spoiled, but they're like, fine, that's all we have to do. And then we get everything. And he's like, I know what you want. You're just here for waiting for me to die. If you wear these masks, you get everything. Like all his money, he's apparently like very wealthy, right? Sorry, that's bothering me. Okay, so they wear these masks, and the masks are eerily reminiscent of the characterizations that you've seen thus far in the episode. Like the mask that the woman is wearing is she's like really worried, and you know her eyes are very turned down and sad, and she has this exaggerated expression of like self-pity, you know, on her face, victim mentality like written across her face. And the daughter looks like a pig and like a spoiled, you know, something or other. And then the boy is one who likes to torture small animals. That comes up in the narrative earlier in the episode. And he's got this really kind of menacing, you know, square blockhead kind of like I'm a dangerous person face. There's actually studies that have been done that there's an actual face type that we identify as being dangerous, and though that face type is the one that you find like all over the world the most imprisoned. So and the father is also some sort of like, you know, something like that, like the son, some kind of like bully, right? So what happens at midnight is that he dies. He's also wearing a mask. He's wearing a mask of death. He's wearing like a skull. So at midnight, you know, the woman is like, oh, I can't take it anymore. Oh my God, it's like midnight. I'm taking this mask off. She's like super dramatic. And she rips her mask off, and they realize that he's dead, you know, so they take his mask off and he's dead, which makes sense. That's why he's wearing the skull. But then they take their own masks off, and their faces look like the masks. Right? So this idea of the external, this idea of the external being a mirror of the internal. Okay, that's what it's a play on. So what happens in Dorian, the portrait of Dorian Gray, is that his internal is not reflected in his external. He's saved from that natural process. And instead, this portrait in his addict ages for him. But the important distinction here is that it doesn't just age. It changes with his cruelty towards people. It changes based on the things he does, you know, to women. It changes when he breaks hearts. It changes when he's cruel. And, you know, lines appear of cruelty, and lines appear of, you know, when you break women's hearts over and over again, you develop a certain kind of gaze in the eyes where, you know, women can see you a mile away and they don't trust you, you know, because you hurt women. Like all these kind of things, and he can see them in the portrait, but he can't see any difference in himself. Did I say his self? I can't. But what he, and here's the really kind of like, ooh, May part of it. He develops this, you know, obsession with going and staring at the portrait so he can like watch himself, you know, like change. And over time he becomes, the portrait becomes so incredibly monstrous, right? So his life is kind of torn apart by the fact that he is able to see his internal self reflected on the external. And why do I go into this huge, like, long story about it? Because these cards come up. Because Libra is the energy right after you, and it's not an energy that you're at all comfortable with. Libra is the energy of, we got to look at it the way it is. We got to look at it the way it is. And the other way that I would put it to you, why are my eyes bothering me so much? Sorry. The other way that I would put it to you is, it's an energy that kind of was removed from you. Virgo was known as the scales, and then it was given to Libra when Libra was established. So Virgo has those qualities of fair, but Libra has this extra quality of air sign rationality. Sure, you can analyze, of course, but it's done with this sort of material eye, right? Libra takes justice, fairness, and it expands it and it elevates it into this sort of abstract philosophical concept, right? And when we look at ourselves through that filter, through that stained glass, if you will, okay, it can be devastating. Looking at yourself through a Libra lens can be devastating. Can this also mean that a Libra came into your life that made you think and feel a certain way and that was devastating? Yes. Yes, it can. Some way or other, this Libra energy, and what do I mean by Libra energy? Does the person necessarily have to be a Libra? No. What I mean is that person that you have in your life that is telling you stuff in a way that's like driving you crazy, but at the same time, they're making so much sense to you. They're doing what this lunar eclipse is gonna do. It's gonna, Libra comes in after Virgo and says the rigidity of Virgo is unnecessary. The way to learning is to get over ourselves and get over this internal kind of, overanalyzing of everything and move forward and make connections and get back out there in the world. So you've got this time coming up. The way I have it written here for the lunar eclipse in Aquarius is changes that have been blocked by rigidity are going to be overcome now. And the best way to overcome that is to draw from the sign in front of you who's so good at it. Libras are not rigid. They're cardinal. Cardinal signs can't be rigid. They are too interested in doing the thing, making the thing happen to be rigid. And whenever you talk to entrepreneurs or anyone who's making it happen, what they'll tell you is that if you want things to be perfect before you get going, or if you have some rigid, timeline or checklist that you've got to adhere to before you can, start on your thing, you're going to be super miserable. Because it doesn't work that way. That's not how you get things done. That's how you, let me put it like this. I heard this recently and I loved it. He who hesitates gets bossed. Libra doesn't do that. Libra's cardinal. It's like, no, I'm not getting bossed by anybody. I'm going to make this happen the way I want. The hesitation is with you guys. So Aquarius lunar eclipse, that's sixth house, every day, right? Your everyday, how you do things, how you are interacting with the world, how you are taking care of yourself. Caretaking. This eclipse makes you push past that like almost OCD uncomfortability, aversion to uncomfortability that Virgos have. Like, no, that's too dirty. I can't go there. No, I don't want to do that. It's going to be too noisy. No. That emotional situation seems too messy. No, thanks. Like, I decided as the moon comes into Virgo that's the day when I'm doing all my traveling. Fantastic. So everywhere I go, all I'm going to see is dirt and germs and whatever. And maybe that's smart. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it'll keep me really safe from, getting sick or whatever. But I'm irritated that I did that. But this inability kind of, or keeping things at a distance because they're not quite clean enough, they're not quite pure enough, they're not quite palatable enough, they have to be subtle enough to be palatable. This aversion and keeping things away and not being able to, you've got friends who've been like, come on, just do it, or it doesn't have to be perfect, or stop overthinking it, like the guy in Can't Hardly Wait who writes the same letter to the girl he's in love with over and over and over and over again and revises it for like 4 years before he gives it to her. Like, I'm sure you have friends in your life who are like, stop it, just go for it. So Libra has that, right? But when that kind of energy comes into your life and pushes you past your level. Because we're doing the birthday reading, take a look at this first page, and you can take your screenshots now, and that way we're looking at it together. Okay, so if you look here, it says under the lunar eclipse that's on the 7th, that the eclipse forces you past your uncomfortability. You're forced to change your valuations. So let's look at the Libra card again. I'm aware that the lunar eclipse is in Aquarius, but there's a reason this came out for you the way it did, because this is a card of valuations. This is someone who weighs things out and determines where the fairness is. Fairness has everything to do with also being able to judge value. So this energy comes into your life and is like, the way I have it written down here is financial, careful not to take others' success personally. So if you're in, when Virgo is in a work situation, there is a tendency to feel very threatened by others who may be in the same job as you and might be doing better than you. It can really grate on your nerves because you want to constantly get better and you want to be really good at whatever you're doing. So it's like, well, what is this person doing that I'm not doing? You know, that would make me just as successful. And as long as you keep it right there and you're constantly learning and making yourself better based on what you're seeing, great. That's just, you know, being a smart human or being a smart animal. But as soon as you take that step into like feeling angry or resentful or competitive with another person in that setting, you're going to end up using the energy of this lunar eclipse the wrong way. It'll turn on you if you do that, and it'll make you resentful and bitter, and I don't think you should do that. I think you should, if you have any work situations right now that are really making you feel like you're unfairly treated, step back and take a look at it. Like, what's really valuable here? Am I being treated like I'm of value, or is this about me being jealous of someone else, or is it about someone else being valued more than me? Right? Do I need to go where I'm more valued? Or is it about me finding more value in myself, and therefore I will behave differently or have a different response from people? So these kind of questions are all going to come up. And I didn't even realize that I wrote this before I started telling the Dorian Gray story, just because like I did this yesterday. But I wrote here, how do you look on the inside? Okay, and then it says eclipse forces you to look at the dirt that we usually want to ignore, right? And why do we ignore it? Just to function. So what do I mean by the dirt we want to ignore? Well, I'll give you a very practical example from my own life. Hi, my name is Amber. I'm a Virgo moon, and if I walk into a bathroom that's not completely clean, I kind of flip out. It's a problem. It is. It limits me in a lot of ways, but I can't. Right? So the dirt, that's just, I'm giving you a material example of what's going to be going on internally for you. Forces us to look at the dirt that we have to ignore just to be able to get through the day. So I say I can't, but if I really, really needed to, would I ignore it and just do what I needed to do? Yes. That is the eclipse. It's not easy, okay? It's not like a party. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and you just got to make it work. And a lot of things that you've been wanting to do, you've been holding back because of that, wanting to be perfect before you do it, wanting to make sure all your ducks in a row, and that's fine, that's really good. But now the eclipse comes in and it's like, you're ready, let's go. You're ready, let's go. I have this footage from me, I think it was when I turned 21, when I went skydiving for the first time, and I was like such like, yeah, like no problem, like I'm gonna do it, it's gonna be so amazing. And then so like we got like the birthday package or whatever, so like you can like record the person as they're about to like jump out of the plane, and then the person jumps out like a little, just like 2 seconds before you so they catch you jumping out. And like, so first he like records you getting ready for your jump and going to the edge, and then he jumps out. So the guy's got the camera on his head, and he's like sitting next to me, and the person whose back I'm strapped to is like, all right, let's go, honey. And I'm like, go. And, you know, they open the door, and the guy catches me on camera. My husband was sitting to my left. He catches me on camera. I turned around, and later he was like, I've never seen anybody with that look on their face. Like, I've seen a lot of people terrified, but like, and I had dragged my sister-in-law, who's a Libra, who's really, I know this is the Virgo reading, I'm just saying, who's really afraid of heights. I had been like, no, we got this, we're gonna do this, girl. And my brother and my husband, like, I was like the ringleader, you know? So here, you know, there's the moment, and I turned around, and my eyes were like this, and I went, and I like put my hand out and like grabbed my husband and put my hand like into his leg, like my claws into his leg, and I was like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Because in that moment when they opened the door, all my Virgo like moon was like, what are you doing? Like, this is not in any way rash. What are you doing? And the guy, you know, that I was strapped to was like, oh, you're ready. And he jumped. This lunar eclipse is that guy. You're strapped to his back, and he's going. You already paid for the thing, and the guy with the camera's already jumped out, and you gotta go. So, you know, you just gotta go. Now, if you would like to know how I handled it, just so I don't leave you hanging here, the way I handled it is I said, well, I didn't have an okay. I didn't get to say okay. He just jumped. So, and I only realized this when I saw the video. So my way of dealing with this was to give the finger to, I guess, the universe and scream the whole way down. Like, one of the women who worked at the place said that it was one of the rare times that she felt like she heard someone scream from the moment they jumped all the way down. She said we could hear you way before we could really see you. That's the lunar eclipse. Okay? So why? Why do you need to do it? Why do you need to just push past your logic and uncomfortability and just do what you need to do? Why? Because your birthday is coming up after that, right? Pretty soon after that. Your season starts pretty soon after that. You need to do it. You need to take those steps. A lot of those steps are going to be financial. I feel like a lot of you need to like reassess what the hell is actually going on with your work life and what you really want. Because there's steps that you want to take, but so many of them are in so many different directions, and that's not the energy you want to go into when your season is starting. I feel like I began to post videos on this channel right last year, right, like almost a year ago, and we started in Virgo season, and so we didn't ever have a chance. This is the first time we get to approach Virgo season together, and that's a big thing, you know, because we get to kind of refine your energy before you go into your season. Really, really good, right? Really good. So what I also have written down here for the lunar eclipse, like we were just talking about, is big changes with work. Now, the eclipses force you to look at the dirt that we need to ignore just to function, right? You see how it says that there? But do not worry, because while you are confronting that dirt, you don't have to function. You've got quite some time now coming up where the Mercury retrograde is in your sign. Will it feel like this? Yes. You cannot fight this. Just, my nose is so itchy, excuse me. You can't fight this. You have to, you know how the retrogrades are. You have to accept them. Anyone who fights the retrograde, anyone who makes fun of the retrogrades, anyone who disrespects the Mercury retrogrades, who is ruled by Mercury, so me and you guys, Geminis and Virgos, it is just the worst idea ever to do that, because you're disrespecting the ruler of your house. you know, the one who gives you your charm, the one who gives you your intelligence, the one who gives you your unique ability to think faster than everyone, you know. So how do you respect Mercury retrograde? You do what it's asking you to do. And one of the things it's always asking you to do, and this one will go from the 13th of August to September 6th, one of the things it's always asking you to do is to get right with yourself. But when the Mercury retrograde is happening in your first house, which is you guys, it's happening in Virgo, there's so many implications to how to get right with yourself. First of all, it's your ruler. So your ruler goes into retrograde in your sign. Yeah, that's not going to be easy. Getting right with yourself. Look how I have it written down here. The imprint is questioned. The imprint is what you have. I have all these little like itches and stuff. I don't know what's going on. Kinetic energy, you know? Your imprint is what your soul passed through on its way into your body, and that's your sign. That's what you pass through. So that imprint is now being questioned. How have you, as a Virgo, been working with Virgo energy? How did you choose to come into this life and manifest that Virgo energy? Which values did you pick up more? Which didn't you pick up at all? How did you synthesize the upward spiral and the downward spiral of a Virgo into your unique self? Now you get to look at that unique imprint and go, okay, what do I need to change? What do I need to do? How do I become even better? I was going to say be more perfect, but like, I don't want to encourage you. I don't want to encourage that in you. And I'll talk to you later about the perfection thing. Like, it's a really cool story. I'm actually glad that you guys are having the birthday reading, because I would be really bummed if there were Virgos. The V's and the W's, like being in Western Europe with the German and the Danish, and then also being South Asian, the V's and the W's, like, but I would be really sad if there were Virgos who couldn't hear the story that I'm going to tell about the Vestal Virgins. Like, it would suck. Like, you guys all need to hear that. So, and it has to do with perfection. So, Mercury retrograde in the first house, the house of the self. Write about it. Cry about it. Don't talk about it. You don't anyway, but don't talk about it. Don't tell anybody about it. This is for you. If you start talking to people about your internal work, they always misjudge you. Don't do it. You don't need to be judged right now. You need to be helped. Y'all are always like, we don't need you to be harsh. We need you to be gentle. And I'm like, I know when you need that. Stop trying to tell me how to do my job. Damn. You see? I'm like really not angry. Not at all. There's only 2 cards out though, and I feel like it's because this, you know how it says here, change is blocked by rigidity? I don't think that you guys are going to let up with the rigidity until August 7th. I think right now you guys are all like, you know, I don't know I think, well, it's because you know this is coming. And that's like such a bummer, right? Because you're like, damn it. Things are about to be internal and painful, you know? So let me just be really rigid and compensate for that, you know, and be really in my rules, and not open. And so the cards are like, I don't know what you're trying to tell you. They're afraid. It's okay. Let's see what else comes up here. After the retrograde, we have, did you take a picture of the second page? Here. Good. Sorry, the camera froze, and then my kid called, and so, right. So, solar eclipse in the 12th house. The retrograde is like, okay, we're going to go internal. And then a week later, solar eclipse in the 12th house. So solar eclipse in the house of the hidden self, like we talked about. Here are the cards that come up. 10 of Swords, Ten of Swords, and then the Tower. I'm going to show you these in a second. The Hanged Man, surprise, surprise. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying this is the process that pushes you out of the Hanged Man energy. Yes, it is going to feel like this. That's what we talked about. The Devil and the Ace of Cups. Let's look. Let's look. I'm just gonna read. Let's look together. Right? So Libra and the Tower, Ten of Swords and the Hanged Man, Capricorn and the Ace of Cups. First of all, let me just point out the very obvious that it's either Major Arcana and Ace or like death. Not death. Not like the good kind of transformative death, but like death. Yes, I'm wearing a dress and then I'm wearing sweatpants because I'm crazy. This is a lot of very clear messaging. It's a really, really heavy reading. Very strong messages here. What I was saying about the solar eclipse is in the 12th house, hidden self, self-undoing. So it's bringing up things that have to do with where you are sabotaging yourself. And you're able to explore that part of you that when you start to succeed, when you start to fall in love, when you begin something that you're passionate about, this 21st solar eclipse is going to make you look at what is it in you that then creates this scenario. How do you subconsciously micro adjust to make sure that that thing that you've started that's bringing you passion and excitement can be undone? Where do you sabotage and how do you sabotage? And what I have written down here is that you're able to explore that internal self-sabotage process with the bravery of a Leo. And why do you need the bravery of a Leo? Well, because to be perfectly honest, you don't have that bravery. You need that supercharge on the 21st from the solar eclipse in Leo to get over this. And this has to do with perfection. This is quintessentially a Virgo emotion, right? And we'll tie this stagnant sort of energy to the quest for perfection later. But at the same time, this is also the way you have to be from the 13th into September, until September 6th, actually. You know, in some ways, will you be forced to change and push past your rigidity? Yes, but in the way of valuing things, in the way your valuations are set up, in the way your priorities are. In terms of everything else, you have to be still, because we often forget that this isn't just a card of being stagnant. It's the card of gaining a certain type of illumination, a certain type of enlightenment that only comes from standing still and waiting and letting things happen and watching, hanging out. We'll see. The card of we'll see. Now, why are we doing all this pulling back? Why all this wait and watch and observe? Why doing all this painful looking at the self through very rational, air sign lenses and seeing where we are our own worst enemy? Why go through all that? Why perhaps sit still long enough and not do the Virgo, trick of busy work running around in circles, but at least people think you're being useful? Why actually sit still long enough so you can see that perhaps there are parts of you that are not where you want them to be, or perhaps that you're dealing with someone who isn't nearly as good of a person as they pretend to be, and you know that they're not right? this is, when I say this is a certain type of illumination you gain, this is the type of illumination that makes you see people how they really are. However, if this is in fact a Capricorn that you're dealing with, Virgo, the chances are really, really good for major love advancement here. Regardless, the chances are really good for major love advancement because this kind of work always leads to love. Maybe that sounds counterintuitive. What? You're telling me my life is internally going to go upside down and I'm going to be so, pained and have to look at the dirty, icky corners that I don't want to look at, and that's somehow going to bring me love? Well, of course it is. Because when we get really clear with ourselves and we gain this halo of illumination of, looking internally and knowing ourselves better, the one way that we know ourselves better is to take ourselves out of the world. In that way, these cards have a lot in common. None of these people are interacting with the world. These people are all at a distance from the world. This person, by, this being by its very nature, is in opposition to the world. The holder of, the other end of the duality, this person, also very dual, is removed from society, judges from a distance from their throne and their position of authority. This person is also removed, perhaps, by choice, but perhaps not by choice. It may not seem like you have a choice. That's ink on my hands. I apologize. But you are forced to, by extenuating circumstances, sit still and observe, and also to observe how you react when you are not able to progress. A lot of illumination to be gained there. And why do all of this? Obviously to prep for the 23rd, which is the sun coming into your first house of Virgo, and we become magnetized with this idea of thinking about the future and having a new start. This is for sure a lovely new start. And what I have written down here is a new outlook, a new start, crafting a new persona. Use the eclipse to find the missing pieces. So you use the eclipse to find these, because this self-sabotage here that's happening, okay? This that's happening here, it has not been dealt with yet because there are missing pieces. There are pieces of understanding here that have not been put in place in the puzzle, and therefore the Virgo mind can't let go of it. It constantly wants to find the answer. So the Aquarius lunar eclipse comes in and makes you look at the answer, right? Gives you the sword and the scales and says, look at yourself. The way in Hindi that's usually put is like, shakal dekhi apni, right? Like, look at yourself. And people don't just say that, even though if you literally translated it, it would mean, have you seen your own face? But people mean it also to be like, no, seriously, Holmes, look at yourself. Like, look what you're doing right now. So this energy comes in, and it's so awesome because it will edit out of you the things that really do hold you back. So it's a big season for you. And once you've edited that out, you get to gain, start to gain this much deeper understanding of the self and of how this whole thing works around you. The unique illumination gained by the Hanged Man is realizing that the mechanism is perfect, because the Hanged Man hangs there long enough to see the mechanism, or the hologram, or however you put it, the universe, float by in waves again and again and again and again. And so like a Zen master that sits on a mountaintop and watches the seasons change and watches the hologram progress in all its glory, this person, although not by choice, is also being made to witness this process. Once we witness the seasonal process long enough, we become profoundly connected and aware. So there you are. The beautiful, reticent, pulling back awareness that's gained by Virgo anyway, and then pronounced by this Mercury retrograde and by the solar eclipse in this internal house. So, awesome. I'm really happy about it. Now, still conflicted, because we're doing the extended reading and the normal reading all in one. We can do the bottom of the deck pulls. Still conflicted, but conflicted about what? Avi conflicted about love. Real conflicted about love. Real conflicted about love. Real conflicted about a big love, huh? I'm surprised by this. I thought that you guys would go through this period of, reassessing what in many ways will be financial things, and also, where you hold yourself back in terms of confidence and how that would affect making more money, so on and so forth. I didn't anticipate that the thing that would kind of hold you back from all this would be what looks here to be a kind of nagging sense of love. It's a bit too emotional for you guys, actually. Traveling for love? What's happening here? Yeah, well, I can see how getting more in touch with yourself will make you feel more ready for bigger love, for a bigger, I have been feeling really deeply off of Virgos that you guys are approaching a time when you want things that you didn't think you wanted. Even very recently, you thought you never wanted to, I never want to have this kind of life. I never want to have this kind of car, or this kind of house, or this kind of family, or kids, or whatever. And now all of a sudden, I'm feeling this sea change with you guys where you really are kind of maturing into wanting something much more substantial. I just really thought that was more financial and material, but it's clear here that you have been thinking also very expansively about love and what it means to be in love, and I dare say that you have come to some very fire sign conclusions that are not native to you. I see you here thinking about it all the time, wanting to pursue this thing that made you feel so connected. This is a lot of connection, you guys. A lot of duality, huh? Two. And Virgo, just in case you forgot, that's the Gemini card. K. So if we are dealing with either a Capricorn or a Gemini, and you've been feeling some type of way about a situation, especially during a retrograde that's coming back around, and you want to pursue it. See, I think what's happened here, Virgo, is that you guys, anyone I talk to who's been in a Virgo relationship where the Virgo came back, the person, when they talk to me, the person they came back to, when that person talks to me, they always say, it's so funny, I wanted him or her back for so long, but they seem to just wait just long enough, and like almost to like the day or the week when I had gotten over it, and that's when they wanted to try again. So I think what the Two of Wands is saying to you here is that if you really have this kind of, obsessive, I'm looping about this, I really think I might love this person, oh my God, what the F, then the Two of Wands is like, yeah, you need to do something about that. Oh, and talk about duality, wait a minute. This was the card on top, right? Two. And then it was this one, two, 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 right? So, you know how when you see the numbers on a clock, like in synchronicity, this is the type of synchronicity where what it's saying to me is like Virgo wants to be paired up. Virgo doesn't want to be alone like this. There's even a pair here. This is the card of pairing up, of love between people, right? So this is your deepest desires moving forward into, late August. And how does this make sense? What did I say? When you have this kind of process going on, although it is painful and it exposes things that are very frightening to look at about yourself, it does bring you this new depth right? Isn't that what I said? That this process produces love, and like how is it? That may seem counterintuitive, right? It's because love, love, love. When you do this, your energy clears. You cleanse yourself of whatever low vibration stuff you've been thinking or doing in relation to other people and yourself. And it leaves you really open. And when one is open, nature abhors a vacuum. When you make space by getting rid of these things, when you make space, then, you know, the universe rushes to fill that space with overflowing abundance. And that's exactly what this is. Okay? So I would say if you are in this situation, oh, I see. Okay. I was going to say, if you are in this situation, just go for what you, but I think it's, you are still kind of suffering from something else. So you're kind of wondering if this is the right thing to do, because you've had to reconcile how this ended the first time and how other things have ended since then. I think it makes you, you know, this makes you re-examine your own level of tenacity and tolerance in a relationship. In the I Ching, it says that some people never get over the first hurdles of being in a relationship, because at the first sign of trouble, they throw up their hands and say, oh, this is never going to work. So really having to head on deal with the aspects of you that are very destructive, that make you do this but then feel terrible about it. This, knowing this about yourself, makes you really unsure about pursuing something that you perhaps will not be able to stay in, because this is so easy and sometimes so necessary. So I get it. I get your hesitation. Now, on the 27th, Venus joins Mars, also in Leo. The lovers, they meet. The lovers, they meet. And for you, again, where are they meeting? They're meeting in the house of your hidden self in Leo. What does that mean? The kind of love you want now is the kind of love where someone can communicate with your hidden self, almost like telepathy. You want someone who makes you feel like this, even though you show them your hidden self, even though they see your Dorian Gray portrait. I like that. Very good. Balanced. Balanced. I like it. So now I'll tell you a little story, okay? And we'll wrap up this birthday reading. You'll have another free birthday reading next month. Lucky you guys. You guys are super lucky always, so no surprises there. So let's talk about my story that I found. I'm just going to mess with my hair a little. I apologize. I know you guys, it drives you crazy. It drives me crazy to have to look at it being crazy. So we feel each other's pain. The way I have it written down here, if you just want to take a look real fast, read that Vestal Virgins part. It says Vestal Virgin. That was all about purity. I'll tell you about what that was. It was all about purity. Purity meant life. As long as the Vestal Virgin was pure, purity meant life. Purity, perfection. Perfection equals life. So what do I mean? It's like the basic skeleton of what I wanted to say, but it's in like an equation form, and I thought that would help you. So I was watching something about Vestal Virgins, and I've been interested in Vestal Virgins for most of my life because I started taking Latin really young, and in all the Latin books, when you're learning Latin, they use a lot of examples that have to do with things that were being done in Rome at the time. And so, yeah, there were all these references to all these Roman traditions. And I was like, what is this? What's going on in Greek traditions? And, they'd co-opted so much of the Greek tradition. So all of that. And the idea of Vestal Virgins, or the phenomenon of Vestal Virgins, was this, that the fire that was burning in the temple, in the Vestal temple, was what kept the city alive and prosperous. And so the flame should never go out. And so there were women assigned, virgins assigned to tend the flame and never allow it to go out. And if you allowed the flame to go out, or in any way adulterated your purity, you would be executed. So one of the things that happened very commonly was that women from very, prominent families, very well-to-do families, were chosen at a very young age to become Vestal Virgins, and then they were put through, they were taken from their families at like 12 or 13 and put through the process. And, they were the clergy kind of the city religion. So one of the things that happened quite often, due to, let's call it office politics, was that a virgin would be accused of not being pure anymore, or accused of letting the light go out. So this is a really poignant example for many reasons. Let me just backtrack a little, and then we'll move forward. Of course, the idea of virgins ties into your sign, of course. The other interesting thing about using this example is that the other mythology tied to your sign is the other mythology and goddess tied to your sign is the goddess Demeter, the goddess of the hearth. Demeter doesn't have a throne on Olympus. She gives her throne up to Dionysus so he can have one, because she doesn't really want one anyway. She's the tender of the hearth, so she wants to sit by the fire. And the reason that Demeter is associated with Virgo is very obvious. First of all, it's the time of the harvest. She is the goddess of the harvest, and you were born during the harvest. But also, there is such a moving humility to just that one little story of how she gives up her throne because she doesn't want it. She wants to tend the hearth, and she wants to be as close to it as possible. And it doesn't in any way, for her or for anyone around her, take away from her majesty as a goddess for her to be, sitting on the floor tending a fire. So really embodying in this beautiful, poetic way, the true humility of the Virgo, which is to be in service and feeling no ego when in service of the greater, the greater good. This is why you guys make such good friends. So so there's this double meaning here, this layered meaning of, yes, Vestal Virgin, Virgo, but also tending the hearth like Demeter, who is also associated with Virgo. So really, it fits. Due to office politics or what have you, it could even be familial politics. You're talking about really rich families and, their daughters. There was this common practice of accusing the virgins of not being pure, and that would mean, the end of their life. Purity is just another way of referring to perfection. If something is pure, it is perfect and unadulterated by anything else. Isn't that right? Perfect. It's perfect. It's whatever it is, it's it the most it can be. It is perfectly itself. That's purity, right? For virgins, for Vestal Virgins, for priestesses, being pure, being perfect, was the difference between life and death. If they weren't perfect, they weren't useful anymore. Damn. How many people in your life make you feel that way? Yo, I could list like 10 people right now. How many people in your life make you feel like if you're not perfect, they don't want anything to do with you? And these are people who realize that you beat yourself up constantly to be perfect. And they still hold you to that. They still, lay into you when you're not 100% all the time, flawless all the time, right? Perfection, constant perfection, okay? Consistent perfection. That was the only way to stay alive. Consistent purity was the only way to be useful in the temple. And if you weren't useful in the temple, you weren't useful. Wow. And so let's go now from, so when people say to you, this need for perfection, and why do I bring this up? Because you're going to be doing a lot of internal work, okay? And you're going to come across this idea of perfection and needing things to be perfect, the rigidity before you can move forward. And you're going to look at yourself and be like, why are you like this? Like that meme where the guy's looking in the mirror and he's like, why are you like this? Like, you're going to be looking at yourself and being like, why are you like this? Why does it have to be perfect? Why does it... This is why I'm telling you, when you start to rag on yourself and beat up on yourself, remember what I said about the Vestal Virgins. This is keyed into your DNA. You are celestially forced to be pure. And when you are not, your karma hits you. Like, whenever someone tells me that a Virgo's done something to them, I'm like, oh, I feel bad for them. Because Virgos are, like, the cosmos has decided you're supposed to be pure. You're supposed to be in service. You're supposed to be healing. You're supposed to be helping. You're supposed to be pure. So when you're not, when you fall off message, the universe is like right away, like, didn't I tell you? Get back on message. What'd I say? So your karma comes back to you, boom, right away. And you're like, ow. So here you are, stuck in this constant pursuit on some level always to be pure. So, okay. Loss of purity meant death. That's the way I have it written down here. So, okay. So what happens then? Let's take this now, before I tie it together, let's take this to the myth of Demeter. So what happens to Demeter? Demeter is the goddess of the hearth. She has a daughter named Persephone, which in many cultures, and even the meaning of Persephone is the snake princess, or the snake that emerges in the spring, the snake goddess, the goddess of fertility. So she has, of course, the goddess of the hearth and the harvest would have a daughter who would be born in the spring and would be the goddess of fertility. So Persephone is gorgeous and beautiful, and her mother adores her, and always has her with her, and they do all these like earthy things together, and they run around in the fields together. And of course, because Persephone is the exact opposite of, the dark place, the god of the underworld is attracted to her and steals her. So much could be said about that. But, okay. So once he steals her, he like legit kidnaps her. Demeter, who we've explored in her positive, role as the humble keeper of the hearth, the one who makes everything grow and bloom, the one who controls the natural cycle and seasons of the earth. Demeter goes into an absolute rage, a rage of grief. She will not let up. The earth dries up. Everything dies. Everything is gone. The color is gone. The food is gone. Everything is gone. Like, she's like, no. Where's my daughter? Like, I'm so not playing with you guys. Like, where is she? Right? So when it gets to that point where she's not playing anymore, she's done. Then, everyone appeals to Zeus and says, can you tell your brother to give her daughter back? Because, like, she's, like, fitting to kill everybody. Like, she will kill everybody. She's not playing anymore. It's that switch, I like to call it the John Wick switch, There's a reason, the Neo switch, there's a reason they use him for those movies, because Virgos have that switch. Virgos are able to go from Yeah, I'm a super nice guy. What's up? How's it going? You know, to I'm gonna shoot 10 people in the head in 30 seconds. And then be really nice again. Be like, hey, can I have a hotel room? Look, I got a dog. That switch, Demeter does that. Where Demeter's like, goes all John Wick and is like, everybody dies now. Cool. Let's see. Like, you want to play? You want to kill my dog? You killed my dog? You killed the puppy that I had. What? You took my dog? What? No, we're not doing this. Fine, we're done. Everybody dies. Right? So she does this and the world reacts very, very badly. And so Zeus says, to Hades, listen, you got to give her back. Like, you got to give her back. She's killing everything. And so the thing that, is messed up is that while she's down there, she makes the mistake of eating some pomegranate seeds. So the amount of seeds that she eats, she has to stay down there that many months out of the year. Because she shouldn't have eaten any food of the dead. But she was in kind of like a trance and she ate it. Which isn't fair, but Greek mythology is all about explaining to you in sort of with divine acceptance why things aren't fair. Because there's a larger lesson, right? So what does Demeter do? Demeter welcomes her daughter back and is super happy about it. And when Persephone emerges from the dark place, the world blooms and shines and everything grows and the sun is out and Demeter is happy. And then when it comes time for Persephone to go and spend those few months in the underworld, with who is now her husband, because of the seeds that she ate, Demeter once again goes into her, F everybody, and we have winter. So that's how that story is how the seasons were explained in Greece. Why do I tell you that? I tell you that because on one side, you have this understandable need for perfection, which is fueled by a real need to stay alive and to feel worthy. And I get it, 100%. And on the other side, you have this extremely loving, nurturing nature that wants to love and give and heal. Like when Demeter has Persephone, before she's taken, she's a perfect mom and she's does everything for her, and Persephone grows up like the happiest, most beautiful child. So what that story illustrates is, so the Vestal Virgins illustrate your need for perfection and where it really comes from. Because a lot of times I think people misjudge you and they're like, God, you're so narcissistic. God, you're so shallow. You just want to be perfect. And it's like, no, it's not out of any sort of a shallow, conceited need at all. It's to gain an inner peace. Even the way I mess with my hair, some people, someone wrote once, they were like, I showed your video to my friend who's I forgot what sign they said, and she said that you care too much about how you look and blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, first of all, you're lame. You don't need to tell me what your friend said. But it's very easy to mistake the Virgo need for perfection of silhouette, of line, of whatever they're looking at for narcissism. And it's so not narcissism. It's to survive. It's to stay alive. It's because the refinement of your standards will not let up. It will not. So you must adhere to them and you must work towards them constantly, right? So there's the Vestal Virgin, example there that kind of illustrates that, and the need for why. So it doesn't come from a conceited place. Although if you're spiraling downward, can you be conceited and envious and doing the most and just a nightmare to be around? Of course you can, but we talk about that a lot with you guys. I've done several videos, so let's leave it alone. Go back and watch the other ones. What does the Demeter myth exemplify? It can be like that, right? And I'm saying this just as much to myself as I am to you. It can be like that, right? You love somebody, you want to do everything for them, you want to be with them all the time, you want to hold their hand when you're sleeping, you want to, you love them, you love them, you love them. And then, either something happens or situation takes you apart from each other, or, you move apart in some way or other, and the switch And then, it's winter. That's very painful for everyone involved. And like I said, we've examined that from the external, from me looking from the outside in and going, you. So we don't need to do that. But now stepping into it and looking at it from the outside, does it make sense that someone who loves so deeply and is so dedicated and humble would react like that and flip a switch if they were betrayed? You see, because Demeter looks at first for her daughter. She doesn't just cause winter on the earth. She looks everywhere. Everywhere. She asks everything. Nobody knows. And then she happens to go back to the field where she was with her daughter when she first disappeared. And there is a boy, there's a boy, a shepherd in those fields or in those hills. And he says, well, my brother was walking in these hills with his herd a few weeks ago, and he heard, and he said that the ground opened up and that it just swallowed his entire herd, and then the ground closed back up. And like, he didn't know what had happened, but that's what he told me, and I didn't believe him. So when Demeter learns that is when she realizes, who has her. And then she gets really angry, because she's been wandering around looking and nobody told her. Everybody who's sitting on Olympus or in the underworld knows, they see her, they hear her going all over, talking to, in the myth it says that Demeter went to everything and everyone looking for her. So when she realizes that Hades has her, she's like, you all think I'm playing with you. Oh, okay. Because guess what? If I kill all the humans, there's no one around to worship you. You guys die too. Like, if we going, we all going. That reaction that she has, that cutoff switch that you guys have where then it's winter, it's because you feel betrayed. You feel like somebody, it's not that just that she was taken, it's that everybody knew where she was and nobody told her. And they let her just run around and torture herself and not know and be so afraid for what had happened. And then she realizes, like, you guys are all just playing me. It's that. When you feel betrayed like that, that's when you go cold, go silent. And it's so easy to look from the outside and say, well, I didn't really do anything that bad, and this person went silent on me. When I didn't really, well, you don't really have to do anything for a Virgo to pick up on what you were trying to do, what your intention was. Like, my Virgo moon works heavy that way. Like, I know what your intentions are when you speak to me before you say anything to me. I already know. I already know exactly what you want from me, what you hope to accomplish, what you want me to feel about you. I'm reading all of it. And because I'm a Gemini, I'm not going to adhere to it at all. Whatever you want me to be, I'm going to be the exact opposite because I don't like that. But the ability to discern it and pick up on it, that's a Virgo thing. That's the intuitive thing. That's the hermit. That's that looking out, with your tentacles out, your energetic, little nerves out there going, this person is actually kind of throwing this kind of energetic shade at me. That person is wanting from me. This person is pulling on me. That person is pushing me, and you feel all these different things. And then when someone in that etheric, plane does something to you, like what happened to Demeter, you're like, no. You wanted me back? I'm thinking I'm back. So are you within your rights, and does it fit with your mythos, with your mythology? Yes, you are within your rights when you behave that way. Does Demeter ease up and not make it the endless winter and just pull back a little and say, okay, fine, I forgive you, even though I shouldn't. I forgive you because you did trick her into eating this stuff. It's still not right, but I'll go along with it. I'll get back into the groove. I'll supply, you know, the life and the humility and the hearth, and the fire will burn again and things will move again. But you did mess up. And for the things that you have taken from me for that time, I will not give to you. It's about reciprocity. So when you give to me, I'll give to you. But when you take from me, I'm going to shut down. And she proves that to us every year, over and over again. When Demeter is taken from, when Persephone is taken, Demeter does not play. Everything dies, right? Everything goes away. So a lot of times in the Virgo readings, the other things that come up will be people in the Southern Hemisphere saying, well, wait a minute, you know, you're talking about them being so tied to their time of year and, you know, so on and so forth, but I'm not in that, you know, that's not the harvest time in my part of the world. So does it still apply? My only recourse to that is that most astrology and most not advanced civilization by any means, or highly advanced civilizations in the Southern Hemisphere, but the advanced civilizations that we tend to study the most in the West and in the East, to be fair, are in the Northern Hemisphere. So a lot of what has grown up around astrology, because it's so tied to myth, has to do with the great Northern Hemisphere mythologies. Because that's, you know, that's where they were created in those seasons. So I'm not sure if that's much of an answer or if that helps at all, but, you know, I thought I'd mention it. So where does that leave us? Well, I hope it leaves you with a little bit of a better feeling in terms of looking at your natural instincts in a more positive way. Everyone has a set, every sign has a set of kind of natural directives that they follow when they feel like they're pushed up against a wall or when they feel enthusiastic. And I think it's always affirming to be able to give people information that kind of rounds out their insight into why they are the way they are. You know, when you know that you're part of a much, much larger system of behavior here that stretches, you know, thousands of years into the past, that has to do with how you perhaps are behaving on your next date or with your girlfriend or with your ex, or, you know, perhaps that is a source of solace. And the best thing about reading for Virgos is always the understanding that's reached is so appreciated. When you can explain something to a Virgo, when you can teach a Virgo something, they are so grateful for it because they value knowledge. You value knowledge so much. You value intelligence so much. So if someone is intelligent enough to teach you something, you know, to you, that's like, wow, you know, like that was an amazing gift. Thank you for that gift, right? So take this as a birthday gift. Happy birthday. It's the beginning of your season at the end of this month. Journal. Write it out. Write it out. Write it out. There's so much to think about. There's so much to get right because you want to go into Virgo season being like, yo, I'm ready. I want you. You're cool. Fuck you. I'm out. You know, like you want to be like walking into Virgo season like, you know, I'm saying like John Wick, all in black, you know, fully loaded. Like, let's go. Who has a problem? I'm here. I'm dope. I'm gorgeous. Like, let's do this. You know, it's my season. That's what we want. So all the prep, all the internal work, all the tears, all the journaling, everything, let it be August. Go out, have fun, you know, make your money. You've got Jupiter in the second house. Like things are good in terms of all that. But be honest now. Look, really look. You know, I meant that thing like shakal dekhi apni. Look at yourself. Look at yourself like the way other people look at you, but also look at yourself and know, like, because of the examples I gave you, but just know in yourself that, like, you are the way you are for a reason, you know? Just because me or anybody else is hard on you, it doesn't invalidate who you are. You are that way because we need you to be that way. I've said this to you before, but you're also the sign of, you know, nervousness and insecurity, and you need to be reassured. So there it is, whatever. I love you guys. Happy birthday, happy extended reading. I will be in New York all of August and September. I have a lot of Virgos coming into New York for readings in September, so I guess it's, you know, you guys are treating yourselves for your birthday. Elma will be having an opening for her salon on like an opening. Her salon is open, but just like a party, you know, to celebrate it on the 26th of August. And I'm kind of like piggybacking that whole operation. I'll be there, so if you want to come by and meet me and like hang out or whatever, that's cool. um what else? I have a website now that's super streamlined. My friend Mandy made it for me, and I've got like a team of people together we are managing the YouTube and the site and everything. So things should be running a lot more smoothly. If you are here and you have tried to watch other videos that are now up for rental and you wanted to buy them, that option will be going up tonight. If you are here and you're watching this and you couldn't buy any of the other extended readings because they weren't available in your country, that's also something that should be remedied tonight. If it is not remedied and you still don't have access, you can click on the website, which is www.amberkhan.com. So it's just my name, Amber like the color, Khan like Genghis, and everything is there. You can book a reading. You can see what the schedule looks like and what days are available. You can see all the prices. You can watch all the extendeds. You'll soon be able to purchase merchandise straight from the website. So really just streamlining everything and making it much, much easier to interact. And, you know, that's what I love to do. That's my favorite, is interacting with you guys. So I will leave that stuff below, as well as a write-up of the dates and when these transitions are happening, so you have all that. I will be in Oakland in October. You already know this. There are tickets still available for that. I think there's a link on the site as well to buy tickets for Oakland, so that's dope. And I will be doing readings. I will be doing in-person readings in San Francisco. Let's take a minute and talk about that. I will be doing in-person readings in San Francisco and in LA the first week of November. There are spots, but there's this thing that happens when I get to San Francisco. Like, as soon as I get there, people start hitting me up and they're like, "Can I have a reading while you're here?" And I'm like, "Oh my God." Like, and then I start carving into my friend time and my like emotional, like, you know, re-up time to kind of satisfy, you know, the need. But I would really like to avoid that this time. So if we can get all those requests, you know, that those, I get that there's like impulse requests, like, "Oh my God, she's here, let me just see if I can," but if you could maybe speed up that impulse a little. And I find that Virgos are the ones that do it the most, so I understand why I'm mentioning it here. Just realize that it makes the process easier if we book it now. Okay. All right. That was good. I love you guys. I will see you in September.